next day when I came home, my mom was crying. I said, "Mom, what's wrong?" She didn't answer. My dad was so angry with me. "You destroyed us. How could you do something so irresponsible? I'm going to disown you. You cannot be my son. You're not my son," he yelled. I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, "Mom, what's going on?" My mom explained, "We went to the bank today. We wanted to get some money to incorporate our business, but you spent all the money we have saved on games. Because it was a debit card, I wasn't receiving any statements from the bank. We were shocked when the bank clerk said I had only $37 in my account. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Mom, I couldn't have spent all of the money. What's a debit card? How is it different from a credit card?" Mom said, "Unlike a credit card, a debit card has no spending limit. The debit card that was linked to the Play Store was directly connected to my bank account. All of our money was in that account. You spent it all. We just quit our jobs. What are we going to do now?" I started crying again. Even though this sounds incredible, this is exactly what happened. I spent all the money my family has worked for years to save on mobile games. My parents have refused to talk to me since that day. Even if they're able to forgive me one day, I know I will always feel guilty. I still can't believe I was able to do something so terrible.
Damn, how is I didn't make that mistake? Fuck's sake, I don't even know how to freaking I don't even know how to use a goddamn credit card. Thank gosh I was not that smart to be able to know to use my mom's credit cards.
Crunch time.
Because I would
We've got your back. And your dinner. Panera.
Welcome to the Here's My Story channel. I'm Alice. I woke up to my mom's scream. My sister Lucy, who was sitting right beside me, was shrieking, "Bees! Bees!" Then I heard my dad's voice inside the car. "Ouch! The bee stung my eye!" The last thing I heard was my mom screaming from the passenger seat, "Honey, watch out!" Then our car started flipping. Suddenly, we were off the road. I was too sleepy to figure out what was happening. After a few flips in the air, our car fell down hard. The moment we hit the ground was terrible. My family loves camping. We spend all our vacations at national parks. The United States has 63 national parks in total. So far, we've camped in 39 of them. Our goal is to do them all. That day, we had left for our 40th national park, but unfortunately, we had a huge accident on the way. Later, I found out that my sister Lucy had pulled down her window to get some fresh air, when suddenly, a swarm of bees rushed in. My mom and my sister panicked. My dad was trying to calm them down, but when one of the bees stung my dad in his eye, he lost control of the steering wheel. After our car did a few flips in the air and crashed on the ground, I felt a sharp pain in my head and lost consciousness. I had no idea at the time, but I went into a coma. When I opened my eyes, there was a girl my age standing in front of me. She was sobbing. I looked around bewildered. Everything was drenched in white. This place didn't look like anywhere I'd been before. It almost seemed like another dimension. I looked at the girl. "What is this place? Why are you crying?" I asked. She kept on crying without answering any of my questions. Suddenly, the sky turned dark. That white expanse was now a dark void. My eyelids got heavier. I fell back into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes, it was still dark. A month or an hour could have passed. I realized I was hearing some sounds. They were very faint at first, then they got closer. Someone was crying again. This time, the voice was familiar. It was my sister's. I couldn't see her, but I could still hear her. Then I heard my mom's voice. "Lucy, please, honey, stop blaming yourself." "Mom, I'm going to blame myself for this forever. This awful accident was all my fault. Alice is in a coma because of me. If I hadn't opened the window, the bees would have never rushed inside." That was a huge shock. I had just found out from my sister that I was in a coma. I was most probably in a hospital right now. Well, crying won't help Alice now. I'm sure she'll be out of this coma soon and show you that you cried for nothing. Lucy said, "Mom, it's been exactly 3 months and 6 days. I'm losing hope." I went back to crying. I would love to give my sister a hug and say, "You couldn't have known that the bees would fly in. Of course it's not your fault. I was just unlucky." But I was unable to open my eyes. I couldn't move my mouth. hear my mom and my sister, but there was no way to let them know that I was hearing them because I was in a coma. Later, I found myself in that completely white space again. That girl was there too. Since I was in a coma, was this a dream? I'm glad you're not crying this time. I'm Alice. Who are you? I asked. She replied nervously. I'm Emma, but I only know my name. I don't remember anything else except for that. Emma, it's okay for you to not remember because you're probably a figment of my imagination, I said. She got angry and screamed. No! I'm real! I'm sure of that! I heard voices coming from the outside. Someone was in the room. A woman's voice said, "Tomorrow's a big day. The lawyer will come and check on Emma for the last time. Everything needs to go according to plan. If Emma wakes up, we're toast. Let's go talk to the doctor and let them know the lawyer will be here." I was surprised when she mentioned the name Emma. Was the Emma she was talking about the same Emma I had just met? A man's voice answered her. "Honey, stop worrying. Look at Emma. You think she's going to wake up anytime soon? Just like everyone else, the lawyer too will think she's in a coma," he replied. Suddenly, everything became clear. I wasn't the only patient in the room. I had a roommate named Emma. She was apparently in a coma as well. She was lying in the bed next to me. It's hard to explain, but even though both of us were comatose, we were able to communicate. I turned to Emma. "You are real!" I yelled with joy. Then I added, "I think your visitors don't like you very much. Who are they?" Emma was surprised. "Visitors? Where am I? Who came to visit me?" she asked. Apparently, Emma wasn't able to hear the conversations I was hearing. Even if she could, she wouldn't be able to remember who this man and woman were because she'd lost her memory. Since Emma was real, first I had to tell her my own story. I told her about the car crash, falling into a coma, and hearing all the voices in the room. Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing when I told her we were both comatose, lying in our consecutive beds in a hospital room. "So how do you think I fell into this coma?" she asked. "There's something off about that," I replied, repeating to her what I heard from the man and the woman in the room. Emma paused when I told her how the man had said, "Just like everyone else, the lawyer too will think she's in a coma." "What does that mean? Am I not in a coma then?" she asked. "I don't know, but I have a feeling we're going to find out soon," I responded. The next day, something strange happened. First, I felt the room go dark. Then I sensed a flood of light that illuminated everything. I cracked my eyes open. I glanced around the room. In a faint voice, I said, "Hello, world." I finally made it out of the coma. Emma lay motionless in the bed next to me. I wouldn't be able to communicate with her because I was no longer comatose. It made me sad to think of that, but maybe I could help her in some way. I decided not to leave this room without first figuring out what happened to Emma. I closed my eyes. I decided that no one was supposed to know I had come out of my coma, at least for a while. Later that night, our door opened. I cracked my eyes open. A doctor, a man, and a woman walked in. The doctor listened to Emma's heart with his stethoscope. After checking the monitor over her head, he said, "Her heartbeat's very weak. She's not really in a coma, but she looks like she is thanks to the drugs I'm giving her. I'll keep her in this condition as long as you keep paying me." The woman was upset. "You don't have to tell us that. We're paying you good money," she replied. "As far as I know, Emma's inheritance from her grandfather is more than $50 million. You can bet that I deserve more than a few $100,000 you're throwing at me," he said, as he abruptly left. The man held the woman's hand. "Don't be upset, love. The lawyer will come here and confirm that your stepdaughter Emma is in a coma. Then you will get her entire inheritance as her legal guardian," he said. When they left the room, I began to think about what I had heard. I put the pieces of the puzzle together and figured out what had happened. This woman was Emma's stepmother. The man was her boyfriend. Emma had inherited $50 million from her grandfather. Emma's stepmother made an awful plan to take that inheritance from her. She made a deal with one of the doctors at the hospital, and he had made Emma fall into a coma with those drugs. When the lawyer confirmed she was in a coma, Emma's whole inheritance would go to her stepmother. But where was Emma's father? I was sure I was going to find out when the timing was right. The next day I woke up to my sisters crying. She and my mother were there to visit me. I couldn't open my eyes because they weren't supposed to know that I'd come out of my coma. At that moment, Emma's stepmother entered the room. There was an older man with her. He was probably the lawyer they were talking about yesterday. She began shedding crocodile tears. Unfortunately, my dear daughter's condition is the same. The doctors are saying the chances of her coming out of this coma are very low. Stroking her hair, the lawyer said, "Poor girl, I've known her since she was a little kid. It's so sad to see her like this." Then he took out some documents from his briefcase. "In this case, as Emma's legal guardian, you will receive the inheritance in her place. You need to sign these documents," he said. Emma's stepmother could barely hide her excitement. I think that was my cue. I had to intervene before it was too late. Suddenly, I opened my eyes. My mom and my sister screamed in unison. "Stop! She shouldn't sign those documents! Emma's not in a real coma. They've been drugging her!" I yelled. Then I told them everything I knew. When the truth came out, Emma's stepmother ran out of the room. The lawyer said to me, "Thank you so much. You prevented a huge mistake from happening. If you allow me, I'll go have this woman arrested. I'll do everything in my power to get her and her boyfriend in prison," and left the room as well. I turned to my sister and mom. I opened my arms and yelled, "Hi!" They both hugged me with joy. My sister said, "I can't believe it. You woke up but you hid it from us so you could play detective?" Shedding happy tears, my mom said, "Let's call your dad now. He needs to know about this incredible story." Lucy looked at Emma, who was still lying in her bed. "Thankfully, she'll come out of this coma." "Alice, I'm so proud of you, sis," she said. In the following days, Emma's stepmother, her boyfriend, and the doctor were arrested. As soon as the drugs wore off, Emma woke up from her comatose state. Unfortunately, she lost her father last year. The police now think Emma's stepmother could be responsible for that as well. Now that she didn't have anybody, my parents offered Emma to become a part of our family. She loved that idea. Now, we all live together. By the way, you might be wondering about the inheritance. Well, Emma received the money, but hasn't touched it since she doesn't need it for now. She'll decide what to do with it when the time comes.
Welcome to the Here's My Story channel. I'm Dustin. One morning, I woke up to my mom crying. I forced myself to open my eyes. "Dustin, your grandfather had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. Your grandmother wants us to be there." Visiting my grandfather? That was the last thing I wanted to do. "Mom, you're acting like the hospital is a few blocks away," I complained. "Grandpa's in Atlanta. We live in Florida. That's an 8-hour drive." She wouldn't listen. "Dustin, please. Your dad is waiting in the car. Come on, we need to leave now." "Mom, don't make me go. It's not like being there is gonna magically heal my grandfather," I groaned. "I've been waiting months for summer vacation. I want to enjoy it." "I can't believe you," Mom growled angrily. "This might be the last time you see him, and you're saying you don't want to go?" "Yes, Mom, exactly. Now let me sleep in," I said, pulling the comforter over my head. I drifted back to sleep almost immediately. When I woke up, my parents were gone. I went into the kitchen for a snack. There was a note for me on the fridge. "Dustin Scott, there will be consequences when we get back." Obviously, I had upset my mom, but I didn't give it much thought. It was time for me to kick off my summer vacation. I put some cereal into a bowl and ran to my computer. A new version of my favorite game had just been released, and I wasn't leaving my PC until I managed to beat it. The following 2 days passed just as I'd imagined. I was progressing faster than expected. I played my game the whole day non-stop. I only got up when I had to go to the bathroom, or was too hungry and had to make myself a sandwich. I was totally lost in my own world, and I was having a blast. On the third night, I realized that my parents hadn't called me since they left. They had to be furious at me. Maybe if I texted Mom and asked how my grandfather was doing, she'd soften up. Perhaps they'd be less mad when they got back. When I went to text her, I realized my phone had died. All this time, I thought they were just mad at me, but they just hadn't been able to get through. At this point, a text message wouldn't cut it. I had to call to make it up to them. It was too late at night, so I decided to call them first thing in the morning. I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. I plugged in my phone and fell asleep as soon as I got into bed. In the morning, I woke up to a loud commotion. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but soon realized I wasn't. The noise continued. I jumped out of bed to figure out what was going on. and I found myself knee-deep in water. My room was flooded. Had I left the water running somewhere? I waded towards the door, the water slowing me down. I grabbed the doorknob and pulled. Suddenly, I was completely submerged in a rush of water. The hallway must have flooded. The force of the water knocked me off my feet, tossing me mercilessly in a dizzying torrent. I couldn't believe it. Our entire house was filled with water. I struggled to gain my bearings and get some air. When I finally surfaced, I was very close to the ceiling. As I took a few deep breaths, my brain finally woke up. The water was coming in from outside. At that moment, 3 alarming words sounded in my mind: Florida, hurricane, and flood. It had been only 4 months since we moved to Florida. We knew there would be hurricanes from time to time. Dad comforted us during the move by saying, "Don't worry, officials send notifications to our phones before the hurricane hits. They'll warn us if that ever happens, so we can take precautions, or even evacuate." Why didn't they warn us this time? I thought. Then it dawned on me. Of course they had, but I had been stuck in my game world. I bet my parents had even called me when they saw the hurricane was approaching on the news, but they couldn't reach me. My phone was off. The water was rising almost to the ceiling. I had to get to the roof immediately. That way, I could at least avoid drowning and hopefully get the attention of a rescue helicopter. Getting there wouldn't be easy, but I had no choice. Our house was too
For that and worked even harder. One day, my dad came home in a luxury car. My mom was surprised. He said the car belonged to a friend of his. His friend would be abroad for a while, so he let my dad borrow it. 2 months passed, but he didn't give the car back. Some days he would come home with shopping bags. He was wearing designer